and thank you so much for having me. I have to tell you that the short film, Journey of a Waterman, did not come together easily, and it was from definitely a crazy idea. Why not align the surf community with the aquaculture community in a way in which it would be very impactful, because this community has been protesting aquaculture ever since it started to grow. We started to look for a surfer, and it wasn't easy. We interviewed dozens of surfers, male and female, looking for someone who was engaged in the environment, but really at the end of the day was looking for something more than just a sticker on the board. And it was interesting as we started this journey, because I can tell you that there was one phrase essentially that really brought it all down, to boil it down for me, and that was from Samuel Pucha's pilgrimage in 1613. The Arabians to him were like out of the desert, were like fishes out of water. And Jamie Mitchell, who we chose, who was the most decorated paddleboarder and big wave surf champion in the world, was out of water. From Sydney to Honolulu to San Francisco to Dallas to Santiago to Puerto Montt to Malinka, I'm pretty sure that he was tired, he was grumpy, he was not ready for the journey, and I, like in the Academy Award-winning Shape of Water, was essentially looking for a bathtub to put him in, because I think his scales were drying out as we spoke. On the boat, it wasn't easy. Within an hour of him making this journey with us to film, he had faced protests, he had actually faced social media outrage, and he was ready to leave. So the journey had not come easily for him, and we were pretty sure he was going to go. And then something happened as he approached the Verlasso salmon site 2 hours south of Malinka. I don't want to say that he changed his mind that quickly, but I saw his skin begin to soften, quite literally and figuratively. And what happened with surfers was something that's really fascinating. They are extremely passionate, and they are very curious, and they are courageous. This is a guy who literally surfs on 100-foot waves. And he started to ask questions. He started to look in this 3-month journey at all of the aspects of who we are, literally lifting up the hood and saying, what is going on here? And he was cautious, he was worried, and that made sense. His sponsorships were in jeopardy. Not only were his sponsorships in jeopardy, but his community was completely protesting against him. And he kept saying, all I have is my reputation. Why would I stand behind aquaculture? And yet, when he was in the water, he felt better. Whether the fish were wild or whether they were raised, I don't know if you know about surfers, but the reality is they feel an energy, emotion in the water. And he saw that whether he was on the farm or whether he was out in the open ocean. He claimed, literally, that the ocean had healed him from debilitating asthma as a child, and he felt a commitment now to helping the ocean be protected. He was seeing two extremes, quite frankly. He was being protested against, and he was hearing a lot of information from companies and organizations. He was confused and conflicted by those extremes, because when he was on the farms with us, he saw something that we see, something so beautiful, something so impactful, and something exceedingly important. But let me tell you, even after months of the journey, months on farms seeing the good and the bad, he wasn't convinced. But here's the thing about surfers. They balance everyday risk and reward. Think about a guy facing a 100-foot wave. Obviously, he's calculating positive risk-taking in order to determine what to do. They get up on that wave, and then they take the risks, and they go into it. But our guy, he wasn't convinced until he got here to Pacifico Aquaculture off of the coast of Isla Todos Santos on the other side of Ensenada in Baja California, Mexico. And why? Because he had passed this farm for nearly a decade every single day on the way to the Killers Waves for the World Surf League Big Wave Championships. He lived in harmony with aquaculture without ever even knowing it. And that's when he literally came full circle. He swam with the true striped bass. He looked at the nature preserve. He tasted the water. It tasted the same as exactly over on the other side of the island where he had been, over and over again. He swam with the fish, and they surrounded him in the same way as they do when he's out in the water paddling in Hawaii. and he started to connect the dots. And this is where things got really exciting, because surfers, if they're nothing, they are passionate, and they believe in what they do, and they sacrifice every single day in order to get there. And when this guy turned it on, let me tell you something. He turned it on in terms of 20 million followers strong. And here's what happened. First, he invited us to the World Surf League's Pipe Masters Championship on the North Shore of Oahu. But we weren't just there to film and sit on the beach. We went to the Quicksilver House and spoke to other surfers and got the endorsement of Quicksilver behind this movie and behind Aquaculture. He took us to Surfline, the largest wave prediction model, and talked to them about a campaign. We took our fish out of water to Sina in the snow, and he got off the plane in his flip-flops. He was freezing, he was cold, but I think those of you that were there know that the premiere, he did a good job. And then we took him to South by Southwest and to paddleboarding championships and the outdoor retailer show where the film was shown. And then as spring turned into summer, we took him to the Aspen Food and Wine Festival, where over 50 press and thought leaders met along with, believe it or not, because there wasn't enough tension, Lance Armstrong, and they talked about aquaculture together. It had been quite a year. And the results were astounding. There have been over 1 million views on this short film and over 40 million impressions. We were changing the narrative. In the words of Mother Teresa, I cannot stand alone and change the world, but I can take a stone, I can throw it across into the water, and I can create a ripple. And with that ripple, let me tell you what Jamie's doing. Right now, he is standing at the World Oceans Gala with Prince Albert's Foundation talking about aquaculture. So you've got the stone. Toss it across the water and create your ripple.